Da horen molwen sanvonani dumelang tobela abschni tainches molalapo. Goedemiddag, good afternoon. It's episode 3 of the Dmitri Jegels podcast, and today's one, I suppose I should call Farewell to Fairways. Yes, after more than 30 years in Fairways, we are moving. It's bittersweet, in fact, quite traumatic, especially for me and, of course, for my wife. But personally, having settled here after a lifetime of constant moving, I was born in Cape Town, and then my childhood, because my father was in internal exile, my childhood was spent in 7 different towns in southern Africa, namely in alphabetical order: Aberdeen, Beaufort West, DR, Kokstad, Komani, Riobos, Wellington. And when I got to high school, I spent the first 3 years of high school in Beaufort West, and then my father sent me to Cape Town to complete my schooling in through the medium of English, to receive my instruction in English, because before that we were in towns, and they didn't. The towns that we were in, there was no tuition provided in English. Well, not for us. So I had to receive my tuition in what for me was not my language of greatest competence, but I ended up being extremely competent in it, which is Afrikaans. The challenge for me is that I learned an Afrikaans which is closer to standard Afrikaans, and it's not Kaaps, it's not Cape Afrikaans, but it's that variety. Anyway, that's a completely different conversation altogether. I must get Professor Quentin Williams in to talk about that. But when I got to high school, then to standard 9, which is in today's language, grade 11, my father sent me to Cape Town. I went to Livingston High School, of course. And then I stayed first in Montague's Gift. And the next year I stayed in Lansdowne, completed my matric. And then when I got to varsity, I lived in Bridgetown, then Rondebosch East, then Fairways, then Garlandale Estate, and then Lansdowne. And then my young adult life, I spent some time in Fairways. I was working maybe 6 months or so, and then maybe a year and a half in Montana, or a year in Montana, and then another half a year in Painlin Estate. Then my father passed away, and my mom bought a house in Westgate, and we all got together then. My siblings, we all moved in with mommy in Westgate Mitchell's Plain. Then I got married to my first wife, and we stayed in Grassy Park, Lansdowne, Newfields, and then I got a sponsored home in Stanfontein Village. Well, I first bought a home, and then I got another one, a bigger one, sponsored. But then, unfortunately, we parted ways, and then I moved to, where did I go to? Ottery. Went to stay with my brother there for a short while. And then I moved to Cape Town. And then I moved to Lower District 6 when I met my wife. And we then got married and finally moved to Fairways. So I moved 19 times in 20 years until I got married to my second wife, Judy, she of the pure heart. And we've been in Fairways now for the past 30 years. That's a lifetime, I can tell you. My youngest son only knows this home that we're in. And he grew up here, became an adult here. So maybe I should share some stories about our years in Fairways. So we were married for about just over a year when my wife fell pregnant. And about a month before she was to give birth, she was adamant that where we were staying was an apartment. It was not conducive to child rearing, and I had to find a house. So we scouted around for a house, and we found one in Fairways, and we've been here ever since. But the first night, when we moved in, we were so tired. Moving is very stressful, and I didn't have a private company to do all the moving, the heavy lifting, and so forth. I was a young man, fit and strong, and all that, and I took this on. And of course, my wife, being pregnant, wasn't allowed to be carrying around stuff and so forth. But still, it was still tiring for her because she did what she could. But we were so tired that we decided I'm not going to still try and set up the bed base, and it had been dismantled, so I had to put it back together. So we decided, no, we'll put the mattress on the floor in the dining room. There's a fireplace in the dining room, so that's going to be cozy. So we'll put the mattress on the floor in the dining room, and then we'll sleep there the first night. And somewhere during the night, my wife woke me up and said, "There's a mouse." I said, come on, love, you. And I just went back to sleep. Next minute, she screamed. She saw the mouse, and then I saw it. It had actually taken a nibble at, her hair. And then she said she's phoning her dad now. She's leaving right now. And then, of course, got up, and I then had to take her to her sister's place. And I then came back and tried to find the mouse. Couldn't. Anyway, but Ma Murray, that's my wife's mum, then moved in with us to help prepare for the coming of the baby. And she had a cat called Tibby. And Tibby was a masterful hunter. And that was the end of the problem. We've had a series of cats since. I think we've gone through 3 cats. So the cats, Tibby was already quite an age when we got her. And Tibby got knocked down, vanished for 3 days, came back, and jaw all out of place. It was a frightful sight, and we had to have that fixed. But that kitty kept on, disappearing, and then one day she disappeared and didn't come back again. We've got a field at the back of our property, and it's a lot of adventure for the cats. But anyway, that cat was a fair age already. Then we got another cat. His name was Milo, and he was a fearsome feline. And he lived to the ripe old age of 19. And now we have Monkey Wonky. Actually, the cat's got 3 names, but and she's looking for a home now, unfortunately. But she's also been sorting out the vermin problem for us. We don't have a problem, actually. So that's the story about the mouse when we moved in. And another story, just when we moved in, shortly afterwards. So our son was a good 3 weeks away from being born. An Egyptian goose, a white goose, settled in our pool. It just settled in the pool and didn't leave. It stayed there. It stayed there until the baby was born. It was like an angelic presence, or was it a stork? Anyway, it was a goose, but that was a surreal experience. Having this bird just claimed us, and we felt quite blessed by that bird. But when the baby was born, the bird left. So those are 2 interesting things. Thankfully, the second one is much more pleasant story than the first one. That happened right at the start, and we've had many adventures in this here in Fairways. Of course, we were a young couple, and I remember that Joe Scaffers, Dr. Scaffers, he was living in Fairways at the time, and he was involved in the Civic Association. Tried to get me involved. I went to a few meetings, but I was too busy running around, living my life, and not. I didn't get involved in civic things. However, in 1998, I think it was time for the next election, or 99, somewhere there. It was time for the next election, and the first election that we had, the first democratic election that we had, we could vote anywhere. And I remember voting at the Good Hope Center. So that was a big thing. We could vote anywhere. But now with the next election, they decided you have to vote in your voting district. And I had no idea where to go and vote. And I thought to myself that I was on radio at the time. We made announcements around it. We kept the public informed. And still, I didn't know where my voting station was. And I thought to myself that there must be a lot of people who are confused by this and who don't know. It's the first time for all of us, well, most of us, those who had been disenfranchised. So it was our first experience of going to vote at a specific voting station that was allocated to us. So, of course, in the area where you live. So I approached the IEC, and I then volunteered. My wife then decided she's also going to volunteer. And so we were foot soldiers. We were sent around our neighborhood to go knock on doors and do voter education, to explain what a voting station is, how you're supposed to register to vote at that voting station, what the requirements were. For instance, your green barcoded ID book you had to take along, etc. So, and also to explain how the ballots would work, because this was a new thing then. Yes, so I'm not going to get into that, but you had to know about the different ballots as well, both national and regional. So we did that voter education, so voter registration and voter education. It was, for me, it was difficult because people just assumed that I was touting a certain political party, when as an IEC worker, you're not allowed to. It doesn't matter who the voter is going to vote for. You're not there to sell any political party. You're there to educate the voter about our education, our voter system. Yes. Anyway, it was tough to get sworn at by people. Okay, let me not go back there, but. Then the provincial electoral officer at the time was Reverend Courtney Sampson, who I think at one point he was the chaplain at the University of the Western Cape. But he was now heading up the IEC in the Western Cape, and he said to me, "No, man, we can't be using you as a person knocking on doors. You've got skills." Then I became the provincial electoral officer, not provincial electoral officer, the press liaison officer to the provincial electoral officer. So I was then the press person to the PEO of the province, which was quite something. So I really enjoyed that. Of course, if you have a set of skills, why not use it? And so I had great fun with that. And of course, I learned a lot So that was just from living here in Fairways and not knowing where I needed to vote. And so I was quite proud of that period in my life where I could actually, be part of this big project, the democratic project, in my small way. Fine. Maybe I should talk about some of the memorable events we had at this home. So it's one of the larger properties. The properties in our avenue, um, are among the older properties, and so the plots are larger, the earth sizes are larger. So I was quite lucky to secure a home that had a flatlet and also a pool. Of course, with that comes a lot of maintenance. Um, but there were many, many pleasant times by the pool. I'll mention two. Um, we had one where I think it was around the time of my son's one of his birthdays early on that we invited a lot of guests, including my business partners at Mannenberg's Jazz Cafe. We had started this restaurant music venue, which was extremely popular. And it was popular with captains of industry, with people from all walks of life, judges, attorneys, advocates, kingpins. Yes. So um, at that party, we amongst the guests we had Jocha, the famous Jocha, our our spin bowler who nearly took the whole England side apart in those days when on his debut, I think. So it was that time, and also a young Cameron Dugmore, who later on went to become the MEC for Education in the Western Cape at one point. I think now he's the leader of the opposition. I'm not too sure. I've lost track now. Um, anyway, so that was one party. And then at another party, we were giving a special welcome to the Polynesian band Ardija. They've got this famous polyfunk sound, and they had a smash hit cover of the song "Silly Love Songs," the Paul McCartney song. But they really did something to it, turned it into a well. We in Cape Town, we loved it, and promoter. I think it was actually my brother-in-law, Graham and Charmaine. They arranged for Ardija to come over. So they didn't come and perform at our place. They were here to just enjoy. I did have a band. It was Vernon Castle and Alia on vocals and Vernon Castle's band. So there was like a jazzy vibe to the music, and we had at the time Sistandi, the legendary jazz songstress Tandy Klaassen, was performing at Mannenberg's Jazz Cafe. So she came as a guest. Do you think she could just sit there? She jumped. She jumped up and went to go and join the band. So we had that was a memorable evening. But that brings me to the saga of Pa Norman and the leg of lamb. So we had a spitbraai at that event, and well, we found out towards later as the evening progressed that we were running out of meat, and we couldn't understand what was going on because the way we had planned it, there would be enough meat, but suddenly we were out of it, and then my wife and her sister looked at each other, and then they called Pa Norman, and then I don't know what they said to him. Next minute, he said, and he disappeared, went to his beloved Bucky, which was called Playboy, by the way, and produced an entire leg of spit roast lamb. Well, then we managed to carry on and distribute the meat some more. So those are two events that happened here at this home of ours. I really enjoyed my years of voluntary work, first with the IEC, but then also with our civic association. So there was one point where I was out of the country 3 times, I think, in 1 year. I think it was around about 2010, somewhere there. But every time I came back, something had been stolen, and we didn't have people living in the flatlet at the back. But by the third time I came back, they had stolen everything, including the kitchen sink and the geyser and everything, the cabling, the piping. It was just a shell. It was close to more than 400 rands worth of damage. And here I need to thank Graham and Charmaine Westhuizen. That's my wife's brother and his wife, who stepped up, and they basically funded the renovation of the flatlet. So thank you so much to the two of you. That was because we were looking after Maumeri at the time, but I'll come to that. I just want to come back to my years of voluntary work. Now, because that had happened, I was so, I needed to do something, and I thought I'm going to join the Neighborhood Watch, and I went to one of the meetings. And then they said, well, welcome and all that, but we are snowed under and our civic association is defunct. We need to put a task team together to put the civic association get it back up and running. So I was then nominated. I volunteered, and then I was. They elected an interim executive committee, which was tasked to draft a constitution and to arrange for the first meeting of the new Fairways Residents and Civic Association Fresca, and then at that meeting for a permanent exco, an elected exco to be elected. And Mr. Henniker, he was then the first interim chairperson, and sadly he passed away last year. And we remember you for your years of service, your many decades of service, in fact, both, for the the Neighborhood Watch, and also the Civic Association. Mr. Henniker stood down as chair, as interim chair. Well, as chair, we were disbanded when we did our election for our first elected executive committee, and he then did not avail himself to serve on the Civic Association because he was already very involved in serving on FNW. And then I was elected as chairperson. That was in 2016, September 2016. And I have been serving as chairperson ever since. I did feel that it's time now to step down. This was before we decided to move because of the circumstances surrounding us. But now this has been foisted on me. I perforce have to stand down. I have started making announcements around it, and at our our next annual general meeting, which will be sometime in February, I will be making a formal announcement, and then I won't be available to be re-elected because obviously you need to be a resident in order to serve on the Civic Association. But I would really like to thank my fellow executive committee members, Mr. Kim Abrams, who's our deputy chairperson, and he also serves on the ward committee. Mr. Ron Jappi, our secretary. Mr. Stephen Hendricks, our treasurer. Mr. Brian Peterson, who has many decades of service, many decades. He's my senior by by nearly 20 years, and he's still serving. And then also Mr. Mervyn Carolison, for your years of service, and I wish you well as you continue in service to our community. I mentioned on one of our chat groups, our local chat groups, and one of the residents complained, "Why am I leaving? Why am I leaving? Why are you leaving us?" He said, and I'm sorry. Yes, it is very difficult. It's proving to be very difficult. I didn't know I would be swamped with so many emotions. And I sometimes doubt that I'm doing the right thing. It's just that I'm retired now, and it's just me and my wife. Okay, we've got this place with 5 bedrooms and the pool. It's a lot of maintenance and so forth. Although I do enjoy putting the odd event by the pool together, so I'll be missing that, and I'll certainly be missing this neighborhood and my wonderful neighbors. Wow, what wonderful neighbors we have, especially on either side of me. We've been neighbors for quite a while. Thank you very much, Robin. And also thank you, Pervez. And Robin, thank you always. You know, what a neighbor. I think he's done me more favors than I've done him. So I feel quite guilty about that. But you know where to get hold of me. If you need something, please let me know. I'm just moving a few kilometers away. I'm not leaving the country or even the city. So, wow, that's this is tough. So, in the 2017, was it late 2016? My wife's mom, Marie, got she took ill, and she was living on her own in Newlands at a retirement home there. She was very independent, extremely independent. She used to love walking down Kildare Avenue and going to the shops and so forth. But we needed to take care of her, and we could see that she couldn't live on her own anymore. So we insisted that she stayed with us. She kept that apartment for quite a while before finally agreeing that she'll be staying with us. And then Graham and Charmaine stepped in. She was living in the house with us, and they assisted us. We then could get her to move into the flatlet, and our son was also at the back with her. There's a 2-bedroom place. So, yes. And Marie spent the last 2 years of her life with us, and we were very privileged to have her here with us. She left us in 2018, October 2018. And then after that, my mum moved in with us because both my siblings had left. It wasn't, was it the country? Yeah, it was the country, actually. My male siblings and my sister, she's been in Polokwane for a long time. So it fell to me to look after mummy. And I had mummy with me for also about 2 years. And then, wow, time passes so quickly. I think it was 2 years ago on Mother's Day that Ma passed away. So while we were honored to look after our mums, it's a tough thing, you know. So there are bittersweet memories here in this home, but that's the circle of life, isn't it? And so we'll be moving to a slightly more central location, closer to my wife's work. Well, to her, it's not work, it's her passion. She's full time in the ministry at the Rock Church, where the gospel of grace is preached, and their mission is um, uh, to transform lives through encountering the Christ. As for me, what's up with me? What's eating Gilbert Grape? uh, I think resumption of studies. I've been threatening and threatening and threatening, and my friend Jeff Mamputa Askis, yo dizozama this year kolonyaka dizozama. I need to finish what I've started, so I'm going to try that. I also started a company last year, towards the end of the year. I found that in order to apply for tenders, and there was one that applied to my skill set, that was appropriate for my skill set, and I found that I couldn't apply. I needed to actually, yeah, I couldn't apply as an individual, so I did form this company, and I'm going to see what I can do with it. I'm looking at operating in the digital sphere. We are in the technologically, we are right there at the next phase, at the next stage of advancement. It's very interesting for me to have one leg in analog and the other in the digital sphere. One leg in the apartheid age and one leg in the democratic age, and I can just see it. I think that cryptocurrency is here to stay. I think that blockchain technology is going to change, revolutionize our monetary system. That's what I think. I'm not. Money is not what I've spent my dedicated my life to studying. That's not. I'm a linguist, but I can see this coming, and so I've really enjoyed working. Uh, well, in the I can't say IT space, but I really do enjoy gaming. I'm a gamer. I'm going to let you in on that at some point. And I also like dabbling in coding. You know, I taught myself HTML when Web 1 came out. Not, I'm not an expert at it, but I constructed my own web page, and then and so I'm dabbling in creating games now. It's much easier now because you've got Agent AI now. You don't really need to be able to code, but I think you still do need some sort of an understanding of coding. So I'm looking at coming up with a game, around crypto. So that's what I'm working on, actively working on at the moment. And I'm also mining Pi. So it's been very difficult for me to convince friends and family to join me on this journey. But okay, so what is Pi? It's a new digital currency developed by Stanford PhDs with over 55 million members worldwide. 55 million. And at this point, there are think over 18 million who've been KYC'd. So KYC stands for Know Your Customer. So they've been verified as being actual human beings, and they are who they say they are. They live where they say they do. We all go through the same thing with a FICA. It's basically a kind of FICA, all right? So there's 18 million who've been KYC'd. And in November, was it? There were 8 million who'd migrated then to the main net of Pi. So apparently I need to give you 1 Pi if you join via my referral code. So that's how it works apparently. But to claim your Pi, you can follow the link which I'll give in the description below. So remember to use your username Dmitri Jegels as your invitation code. So it's just tapping a button every day. It's very, very. They say it's free, but I think I should say, look, it costs you some sort of money to power your phone. So it's going to cost you a bit of electricity to make sure your battery's charged. But you need to charge your battery anyway because you use your phone anyway. And then it's going to cost you some data to mine, but you use data anyway. So I'm not going to say it's free, but it's really, it's minimal, the cost. Now, if you know what blockchain is, so I'm going to describe it for you with the help of DeepSeek and ChatGPT. You've heard of DeepSeek, have you? They've thrown a cat amongst the pigeons, haven't they? So I'm giving the caveat. I'm giving the credit. I didn't write all of this myself. Now talking about blockchain and so forth, I did get I sourced information via the internet, and I used mainly to search for me ChatGPT or Open AI and DeepSeek. So blockchain is like a digital notebook. It records transactions in a way that can't be changed or erased. So imagine a chain of blocks where each block contains information, like transactions. Once a block is added to the chain, it's permanent. Everyone in the network has a copy of the same notebook, making it secure, making it transparent. So Bitcoin works on proof of work, and the Pi network uses a protocol called the Stellar Consensus Protocol, PSC. Bitcoin's proof of work, well, miners compete to solve complex mathematical problems to add a new block to the blockchain. This process then requires a lot of computing power and electricity, so it's very expensive. One of the Antminers might cost you like $5,000. What's that in ZAR? But it ensures security, although it's slow and it's energy intensive. Pi Network's Stellar Consensus Protocol, instead of miners then solving puzzles, trusted groups, these are called quorums, verify transactions. So not a lot of computing power needed, you just need your smartphone. And so therefore it's a lot more energy efficient, and it's faster. It's designed to work on mobile devices, and therefore I say it's accessible to the masses. It's not anybody, even somebody in an impoverished person who happens to have I've seen what do they call them? Mountaineers, bergis, beggars with cell phones. So, in short, then, Bitcoin uses high energy and a lot of computing power to secure its network, while Pi's SCP uses a trust-based system, which is more energy efficient and which is more accessible. If you're still struggling with it, let's say that blockchain is a digital ledger. It records transactions in a secure, in a decentralized and tamper-proof way. So it's a shared online notebook or ledger that everyone can see, no one can change. So each block contains a batch of transactions, and these blocks are linked together in chronological order, and they form a chain, hence the name blockchain. So once a block is added, it can't be altered, making the system transparent and secure. And the miner who, okay, I'll get there, instead of relying on a central authority like a bank, blockchain networks are maintained by participants, by nodes who validate transactions. Now you see here, that's the middleman being cut out. That's why I'm saying there's a massive, massive spanner in the works coming for the current monetary system. So, how do Bitcoin miners get rewarded? Um, they get block rewards. Those who solve the complex mathematical puzzles using their powerful computers. And so the first miner to solve the puzzle gets to add a new block to the blockchain, and then they receive newly minted Bitcoin. Now, I don't know how much it is per block. It used to be 6.25 Bitcoin per block. I think it's now 3125. I'm not sure because it halves approximately every 4 years in an event called the halving. So I'm not mining, but I'm mining Bitcoin, and I also do not claim to be an expert. I'm certainly not a financial advisor. Please, this is not financial advice. I'm just trying to explain to you um, about a blockchain because I'm trying to get to you. Yeah, I'm trying to talk to you about Pi actually, and why I'm mining Pi. So every Bitcoin transaction involves a small fee, and the miner who successfully adds a block also collects these fees as an additional reward. So as the block rewards decrease over time, transaction fees become more important for miner incentives, and because the mining requires a lot of electricity, also computing power, the rewards then help cover the costs. It also incentivizes miners to keep on securing the network. That's what it's all about, to secure the network. So then, if that's what's happening with Bitcoin, how are Pi miners rewarded? So for Pi mining, there are four roles, and the basic one that anyone can do is to be a miner. As we call them pioneers, and you earn Pi just by logging in every day. You log in. Simply tap a button once every 24 hours, and then you're mining Pi. And there's a rate at which you mine as well, but maybe I shouldn't go into that now. There's no battery drain. It's just the normal. As your battery, it doesn't put any extra strain on your battery, and you certainly don't need a very high processing power. Um, the mining rate started high, but it gradually reduces as more people join the network. Then you can be a contributor. You earn extra Pi for building a security circle. This is something I've done. Um, After mining for 3 days, you can add trusted members to a security circle. As friends or family who also use Pi. So you need to know them personally. You must vouch for them. This helps secure the network, and it earns extra Pi per hour during your mining. Then you can also be an ambassador. You earn a referral bonus when you invite others who use when a user invites others using their referral code, they earn a bonus percentage of the new user's mining rate. Doesn't cost the new user; they just get a bonus. Um, it's built in to the algorithm. So this encourages network growth. That's how we've managed to be. I think there's no other community, crypto community larger than Pi. Um, then there's the node. I also run a node on my PC, which helps to validate transactions. And this is for future rewards on the mainnet when we actually launch on the mainnet, not yet launched. So users running Pi nodes on their computers help secure the blockchain. So remember, this is separate from the mobile mining. And once mainnet is launched, these users are expected to receive rewards for verifying transactions, and that's going to happen soon. It's not yet happened. It's around the corner. That's why I'm talking about it. Um, so the Pi mining rate also decreases over time. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but and what is the value of Pi? Well, right now Pi is not yet tradable on major exchanges. But once Open Mainnet launches and exchanges list it, Pi will have market value. And so many early adopters hope that their mine Pi will be worth something once it's fully operational. So we're expecting to go to Open Mainnet in Q1, in quarter one of 2025. That was the announcement that was made last year, late last year. I think was it November or December. So here we are. I'm inviting you to have a look at it. Let's put it this way. Currently, we can't trade in Pi. We can barter. We can in our closed net. We've got a closed network where pioneers can trade with one another. They can trade Pi for goods and services. So I'm actually at this moment able to pay with my Pi to get stuff from stores from other participants, or I can sell things for Pi to fellow pioneers, but it's not on the open market. But what is happening is there's a thing called IOU, and this is listed on some exchanges. You can look at maybe CoinGecko. You can also check on Binance what the current price of Pi is, but that's the IOU, where people are willing to promise to pay X amount for a Pi once they can start trading in Pi. And so I'm not sure how that works, because according to our white paper, we're not allowed to trade in Pi yet outside of our closed network. And so typically that would be trading with somebody who's not in the closed network. So that's falling foul, and they can penalize us by taking away our Pi. So I don't take a chance with it. And I don't advise anyone to try and deal in Pi with people outside of the network at this point. But at the time of recording this episode, we are a few hours away from the deadline to complete our KYC. So I'm not too sure what's going to happen after this, because surely people will still be allowed to join, I'm assuming. But the problem is that those who've been mining Pi up until now, up until today, and who've not done their KYC, they will lose their unverified Pi. So your Pi is only verified when you are verified, when you are cleared by the KYC, and then you can move your Pi to the mainnet and into your wallet, and you'll have a wallet. Last thing I want to talk about cryptocurrency is not your wallet, not your Pi, not your wallet, not your Bitcoin. The point about cryptocurrency is you can practice self-custody. You can have an offline wallet. So the bank doesn't need to hold your cryptocurrency. You hold it yourself. You can have it on a public exchange like Binance, a trusted one like Binance, which is the most trusted exchange. I also recommend Uphold. Those are two excellent exchanges, but Uphold. Okay, let me not carry on about this. Just remember that the wonderful thing about crypto is you can store your own cryptocurrency, and you don't need to pay bank charges. There's no danger of being run on a bank, and or the government telling you, hang on, I'm debanking you, which is what happens a lot in the States apparently, where they debank people. And once you're debanked, we've also had a problem with debanking here in South Africa, where you fall foul of, what the the monopolies want, and then you end up not being banked. Then you have a problem. Where do you put your money? Okay. I went off on a complete tangent there. Hey, this was supposed to be farewell to Fairways, but this is what I'm busy doing. It's an update on what I'm doing, um, and where I'm going, and I hope you found it interesting. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section or suggestions. Yes, I did promise you guests, and I do have one lined up for soon in February, because there's a movie premiere and I want to talk to at least one of the actors. I might even get the director in as well. The director is known to me. It's about the Athlone massacre. So yes. Okay then. Let me end it there. I think my next episode I'll still be living in Fairways, and then maybe we can talk some more. I can answer questions if you've got questions around it. But it's been good to connect with you again. And ons sien mekaar weer. So banana pinda futi. Kos kakul.